Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm really excited about my video because I'm going to be talking about some cozy fall books that I really want to recommend to everybody. And okay, there's definitely more that I could put on this list, but I've tried to narrow it down to ones that I don't feel like I hear everybody talking about. I tried to narrow it down to some that maybe you've never heard of, or maybe you've heard of before but have forgotten about. I have put these into two different categories. Half of them are middle grade and half of them are adult. And I'm gonna start with the middle grade ones. Before I do start though, if you think that you don't love middle grade, you don't like middle grade, I would say give them a chance, because yes, not every single middle grade book you're gonna love. Some of them are a little bit more geared towards like really young children and maybe you can't connect to that. The middle grade books that are amazing, I think, for kids and adults. The ones I have picked, I really love. So I'm gonna start with a middle grade mystery series that I absolutely love. The first book in this series is Premeditated Myrtle. So this follows Myrtle Hardcastle, and she is a 12-year-old in England. I think her father is a lawyer and she has an obsession with criminal science. She's always wanting to like try to solve mysteries. So in this book, her neighbor actually is found dead under mysterious circumstances, and she is trying to prove that someone has murdered her. Myrtle's really fun, and I love her governess is kind of like almost like her sidekick, I guess, helping her try to solve these mysteries. This one was really fun. I also have read the second one, which is How to Get Away with Myrtle. And they're both just really fun and cozy because, again, it's in England, so I feel like that makes it even cozier. Myrtle's just really fun. I really love her character. The next book in the series I'm really excited to read because it takes place at Christmas time, I think, so I'll definitely be reading that this December. The next book I have is actually another mystery middle grade series, and that is Agie Morton. So I actually just read this, I think it was last month, and this follows Agie Morton, who's supposed to be like a young Agatha Christie, and she becomes friends with Hector Poirot, which is supposed to be kind of like Hercule Poirot from her mystery books. But they become friends, and Aggie was one of the first to discover a dead body under a piano in her dance class. So she thinks something is mysterious about this. She's really interested in all of that stuff, even though everyone's kind of trying to get her not to be interested in this because it's not appropriate for like a young girl to be trying to solve murders. So she's trying to solve this murder, and her and Hector are working together. I thought this was just the perfect cozy mystery book. It was just really fun. And then at the end of the book, the author kind of talks about some different things in the book that were inspired by Agatha Christie, like as a child, like different things that she'd heard about her that she kind of put into the book, and then the things that were fictionalized, which I thought was really cool too. Again, this is a series. I've only read the first one, but the second one actually takes place at Christmas time, so I'm excited to read that in December as well. I have one more mystery middle grade book, and this one almost, I feel like it leans almost like YA, but it's probably still categorized as middle grade, and that is The Scandalous Sisterhood of Prickwillow Place. So this is by Julie Berry, who also wrote Lovely War, and those two books are like completely different. So I think I read this after I read Lovely War because I saw that she had written it, and the plot just seemed so interesting. So this actually follows a group of girls at this school, and their headmistress seems to be mysteriously poisoned at dinner. So this is really actually a pretty funny book, even though it's like dark humor, I guess. So their headmistress is poisoned at dinner, and they don't know what to do, but they don't want to have to go like back to their families. They want to be able to stay here. So they're basically trying to cover this up because they don't know exactly what to do. They don't want to tell the police though. A lot of funny things happen because it's just this group of girls covering up this death of their headmistress while they're trying to kind of solve the mystery also of like who has killed her, like should we be scared, what should we do? And they're just a really funny group of girls because they're all so different, and they all have like their individual personalities are just really funny all together. So I loved this book. I've thought about rereading it too because I don't know, it's just such a fun time. If you want to read like a mystery book that has a lot of humor into it and you maybe don't want to read a middle grade, I would try this one for sure because Again, it is, I guess, technically a middle grade, but I feel like it's an older middle grade, and it just is so funny and such a fun time. The next middle grade book I have is A Place to Hang the Moon. So this is a historical fiction middle grade book, and it's probably one of the coziest middle grade books I've ever read. I feel like if you love Narnia or just basically love books, like this is a really great middle grade book to read. It takes place during World War II, and it follows 3 siblings, and their grandmother has just passed away, but it's also the time of like sending children to the English countryside to be with like foster families because of the war going on. And so this is happening at the same time, and the lawyer is basically telling them, okay, we're sending you to the countryside, but we're also trying to find you a family. Basically they go through a couple different families that are not the greatest, and it's really sad, but they also have a love of books in the library. So they're going to the library there, and they get really connected to the librarian, and it's just the sweetest story. And I love all 3 of the siblings, and I feel like this is just a great book to like cozy up with a blanket and a cup of tea, and I don't know, it just gives you so many happy feelings when you're reading it. That is all of the middle grade books that I have. So now we're gonna move into the adult books. The first one I have is, of course, The Thursday Murder Club. So I've read 3 of the books in the series, and I just recently read the 3rd one. I know a lot of people, I feel like, do talk about this series, but I just had to talk about it too because it is one of my favorite cozy mystery series. If you think that you would maybe even possibly be interested in reading about a group of 80-year-olds trying to solve like old murder cases, like you have to read this book because I love these characters. They're so fun, and I just love how Richard Osman writes. He puts humor into it while also just like the mysteries I can't solve. I just feel like they're really clever, and he just does a really good job of writing how humans interact and how they are. What makes this book though, like I said, is the characters. They are just such a fun time, and I love them so much. My next book, I am kind of surprised I've never talked about this before because I was obsessed with this series like 4 or 5 years ago when I discovered it, and that is At Home in Mitford. So number 1, I think I picked this book up for the cover because it just looks like fall. Like, it's so beautiful. This is the first in the Mitford series. It follows Father Tim. He is the Episcopalian rector in the town. I just love the coziness of the town and just all of the characters in this town. You just fall in love with them. And Father Tim is one of my favorite characters ever. I feel like I can kind of relate to him. Like, I feel like we have a similar personality. He just likes his cozy things too, and I feel like this book has a lot of heart and is so heartwarming, and I think it's the perfect time to read it right now. I have not finished the series, sadly, but I've read, I think, the first like 7 books in the series. There's a lot, but yes, I would really, really highly recommend this book. The last 3 books that I have all have to do with some sort of bookstore. The next one I have is The Storied Life of AJ Fikry. So I read this a few years ago. It follows AJ Fikry, and he has a bookstore. He's kind of a grumpy man. Some things have happened to him in his life. So he's on his own, has this bookstore, and then he discovers something in his bookstore one night that kind of changes his life. You just fall in love with him. I feel like you'll just sit down, and once you start reading it, you're gonna finish it in like 1 or 2 sittings. Definitely read this book if you haven't before. The next one I have is The Printed Letter Bookshop. In this book, we follow Madeline, and she has inherited her aunt's bookshop. Her plan at the beginning is to sell the bookshop because she really has no interest in running it, but she starts working in there with the 2 employees, and they kind of form a friendship together, and Madeline realizes maybe she should keep the bookstore open. And it also has a little love story in it as well. So this one, I remember I read it so fast. Like, I think I finished it in 1 or 2 days, which is unheard of for me. So this one I think is really great if you want like a cozy bookstore type of book to read. The last book I have is The Bookshop on the Corner. It follows Nina. She is a librarian, but at the beginning of the book she loses her job and decides that she is going to take her book collection, because she has a million books, like so many books, and she buys a van, and then she decides she's gonna just drive around and have this like mobile bookstore. She ends up moving to this like really small town in Scotland. The setting of this book is basically what made it for me, and I also really liked Nina because when I read this book, I had never related to a character more in my life. Like, I felt like we had this same exact personality. She's moved to this little village and she is selling books out of this van, which she's really passionate about, matching books with people. And it also has a love story in it, which the love story was fine. I really liked it, but I do remember towards the second half of the book, or maybe towards the end, it got really kind of spicy and I didn't like it as much. But up until then, it was really great, and overall, I really enjoyed this book. That was my last one. I really hope you can find a new cozy book that you can add to your TBR, because I'm constantly adding more to mine. Let me know what one of your favorite cozy books is that I need to add to my TBR, because again, I'm just constantly adding more and more, which is terrible because then I cannot read them all. That doesn't stop me from adding more to my list. I hope you found a new book that you would like to read this season. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and subscribe and leave me a comment. I love to talk to you all in the comments about books. Thank you if you've made it this far into the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.